Okay. So, welcome back to Coltran in Wiltshire, in the middle of the Mittenram Empire. It's not quite in the middle, it's somewhere in the middle. I noted that the building from where I was is very mist shrouded. It's right on the edge of the fog distance with the chunk setting view that I've got at the moment. And I thought it might look cool to have a much bigger building extending upwards, which is what I started to put in place, the skeleton of it anyway. You can also see there's this more forward structure, which I think may have to go up another floor to work. But this is basically just an extension of the base that was already here along the traditional building lines that I usually put in place for towers, which is to say, I mean the Fibonacci sequence, basically. The first floor, just one layer at the widest width. You shrink it and go up 2. Shrink it again and you go up 3. Shrink it again and you go up to 5. I knew it was 5, I just couldn't see where the floor ended. And then you can shrink it again and you go up 8. This is actually the highest I've ever built a tall tower. No, let me rephrase that. 8 is the highest I've ever been in the sequence while building a tower. This is because right now this tower started off so big. If I was to go to the 13th, like the next number in the sequence, and shrink it again, I would hit the build ceiling, which is 255. Now, it's not the biggest tower. It's not even the tallest. The biggest tower is up in the northern city, Nordran. It's called the Magnetal, and it's started off like 20 blocks across. And I couldn't even complete the 8th layer because it was so tall as well. Each floor was much bigger than normal. It's a vastly tall building, and I had to leave it in ruins in order to leave it complete. I have built another tower that goes up to the 8th floors, but it started off quite narrow, so the 8th ones were actually very tiny. Barely room for a ladder, basically. So yeah, I will complete that. I won't go up to it, as I say, I won't go up to the 13 because that's pointless. It's just no use to me. What I've actually been doing, because that's basically an experiment. I was testing to see what it was going to look like from the distance. What I've actually been building is this boat. I started my last stream, went on for some time while I got the groundwork for this. I did threaten to build this entirely on stream. I decided not to carry that through because I do want to keep my streaming down to just 2 days. Streaming is almost entirely pointless. I get some attention from time to time, but I don't want to waste my time. So, you know, yeah, there's so here we are. Anyway, the yeah, I don't know what this is. This is supposed to be the bridge, but these 2 light wells both cut up right in the middle of it. So I'm like, oh, never mind. That's bad. Here we go. So yeah, these 2 light wells poke up in the middle of it, and I'm like, how am I supposed to incorporate them into the bridge? They're like directly in the way of line of sight. So yeah, so the bridge, the boat has come along. I've pretty much completed all of the floors actually since it started, to a reasonable amount of satisfaction. I feel like I very much forced the synchronizing of the cargo access and passenger access, because the cargo hold is actually at the front. All 4 of these floors are the cargo hold, and I think there's probably an option to bring more cargo down through here. We actually end up all the way in engineering if you follow it through. So yeah, that presented a little bit of a problem because the cargo hold access, like for unloading, is gone. Where is it? There's the staircase. What? Oh. Yeah, I had to move this staircase, I remember now. So, yeah, here's the cargo hold access. So, I'm not even on the lowest deck, so it's in a really bad spot. This is because the tower was built first, and then when I tried to build the ship, I realized I was making a very big mistake. I reached a point where I thought the boat needs to be flipped, rotated 180, so that the cargo hold is actually pointing forwards in this direction, in the northward, and that the door perhaps would then align more naturally with the unloading section. I did put this in possibly to allow unloading from the front, actual front, but yeah, I kind of like when, what does it matter? A lot of passenger space down here, a lot of open space. I don't usually do 2x2 corridors, but really wasn't much choice. I didn't want to do like a big corridor. 3-meter wide corridor is just plain too big for this kind of thing. You know, you end up with the rooms are tiny. The corridors are as big as the rooms then, and it's just like, it doesn't look realistic, and then you're like, well, why am I even bothering to build an internal structure? So, and I also know from experience that a corridor 1 meter, 1 block across, is just a tiny bit too narrow. So, you know, I don't really have much choice but to stick in the 2x2. 2 block wide corridor. This is an unloading area, obviously, for if it was in another place. Unloading crew. Because it does look a little bit like the cliche version of the Ark, perhaps a little bit too much, and at the very least looks like a bloody tub, bathtub. I was going to call it the GKV Gazpacho. Still can't do it. I think I was mentioning this last time. I want to call it the Gazpacho, but every time I go to say that, I try to say Gestapo. I may just call it the tub just to stop that. Anyway, so concentrating on to put fence posts in. I'm sure anybody who builds know how much of a pain in the ass it is to put fence posts. Not quite as bad as putting glass panes, but yeah, still bad. I'm not sure this is going to work. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay. So, I mean, it'd be a bit rash to say it's finished. Wait, what am I talking about? Of course it's not fucking finished. God damn it. There's a whole hovering mechanism I need to put in place underneath. Finished. Wishful thinking, that is. I'm assuming that... Yeah. Okay, so what was I saying anyway? I'm carried away, overly concentrating on what I'm doing. In fact, actually, that may be about time for me to sign off onto the YouTube portion that I'll post. That's hacked off my terrible beginning. But yeah, so it's coming along quite nicely. Just realised I let it get dark. Oops. Yeah, coming along nicely. I do need to work on the underside, which I'm going to have to start now. We should be done. I need to put the glass in, but yeah. So, adieu to those of you who may be watching this on YouTube.